last but not least, for my case tonight, or cases tonight, is, so we've been digging into the whole Vinlander Delphi situation. Now, while a lot of that to me makes some sense, I did want to go back to one of the first suspects in the case.
Okay.
Because I had some viewers ask some questions, and I looked into it a little bit more, and I feel like there is a possibility here. Like, and it should be looked at. And I also have some questions. I have a lot of questions, actually, but it's Ron Logan. Ronald Logan is the man that owned the property that Abby and Libby were found on.
Okay.
So if you look back and you type in Ronald Logan to just YouTube, Google, you will find old interviews where he did a ton after the girls were found. Like, maybe it's not a ton, maybe it's just a bunch of clips I'm seeing, but I saw several. I know HLN specifically went out there and got like a walk around. He literally took them around the property and showed them where the girls were found and everything, which apparently he was resistant to at that point or something like that, from what I heard from the lady who interviewed him, which I can't remember her name right now. I'm so sorry.
This is my backyard. My backyard just happens to be bigger than most people. How many people have a murder committed at their home in their backyard?
The FBI agent who requested this search warrant wrote, quote, "I believe there is probable cause to believe that Ronald Logan has committed the crime of murder." The document shows Logan created a false alibi for the time the murders were committed, but he was never charged in the case. Logan was sentenced to 4 years in prison for violating probation in a drunk driving case, and that may be why he lied to investigators. We don't know if the search warrant turned up any evidence specifically related to the Delphi case. Logan died in January.
He was very open to the media, and then when he started feeling like he was getting looked at, which I believe it's his son that was like, "You need to be quiet. Like, you're looking guilty. Like, people are spinning this, okay?" He was quiet after that, and he was, like, totally anti-media, hated the media.
Who would have thought they'd let their children out to do something special that day, take a trip down, and it turn out with a disaster like this?
For 53 years, Logan's lived on the country road near the trail that leads to the Monon High Bridge.
People walk up and down it with their children, and yeah, it's quite a nice little trail, and the bridge is real.
Never, though, has Logan seen anything like what he has this week, the search for an eventual discovery of the bodies of Libby German and Abby Williams.
The area that they were in is very hard to get to. I mean, you can't get there unless you walk there. I mean, so somebody would be walking with them or something.
So,
it makes sense why he would feel like resentment or distrust towards the media, especially when you're going out of your way to talk with them and give them what they're looking for, and then have it feel like they turned on you. Like, I get it, you know?
So, Ronald Logan, like I said, he owned the property that they were found on. He has since passed away. So he's not here anymore. So if he is the killer, like, you know, there's nothing much that could be done.
Yeah.
I know that.
Jeez.
I know that most people who follow this case closely do not think it's him. They don't. But I feel like there's kind of too many coincidences that that a lot of people are just like, well, it could be this explanation, so, you know, I don't know. I feel like he makes way more sense than Richard Allen. Like, way more sense than Richard Allen. So, let's talk about the day that the girls were found. Where was Ron Logan? What was he doing? We don't know. because he fabricated an alibi.
What?
Yes. Before the girls' bodies were even found, he was fabricating an alibi.
What?
Yeah. Yeah. He was. So, the day the girls went missing, he claimed to investigators that he had a friend drive him to like an aquarium store, like I said it was a fish market before, but it's like more like an aquarium store in Lafayette, Indiana.
Okay.
And that he was there. So couldn't have abducted the girls. He was in Lafayette at a fish store. So he called, okay, a family member. I've heard it called a family member. I've also heard it called a friend. He called them before the girls' bodies were even found. Now, it was after they went missing, but before their bodies were found, he calls up a friend and is like, hey, I need you to say you took me to this fish store in Lafayette. Before ever talking to the police.
What?
Before the girls were ever found, nobody knew anything yet.
And how do we have confirmation that he asked him to lie? Do we know what that evidence is?
There is the FBI, when looking into him, they ended up writing up like a probable cause affidavit and a search warrant to search his home. And in that, they laid out several details, and this came out through the Murder Sheet podcast, which they almost exclusively covered Delphi. And they've done a really good job bringing information to the table. They're very, very invested, very intelligent. I enjoy their podcast a lot. But they are the ones who released it, and that's what the FBI agent said. Now, a search warrant is going to be biased. Like, it's going to be biased. It's going to present all of the most damning information so that they have probable cause to legally and constitutionally search someone's home.
Yeah.
So it makes sense to put all of the most damning things, but the most damning things, like, in this are pretty damning. Like, in my opinion, personally. What? What? You can't go and not tell anybody what you're ing about.
That his walk matches the guy on the bridge.
See? That's another thing.
His knee.
You guys.
His right knee.
That's another thing. Is when friends, ex-girlfriends of his, people that knew him, said when they saw the bridge guy video that they thought for sure it was him. They said he dresses like bridge guy in his everyday life, and his stature, the way he held his body and everything, they swore up and down it was Ronald Logan. Apparently, according to Murder Sheet podcast, which is where I heard that. What? That's saying something. Don't you think?
He walks with a limp on his right knee. And I just said that the other night. For anyone watching, if you're curious, I said that, 2 nights ago?
Yep.
That bridge guy, I can tell, has some kind of injury on his right knee. There's something going on there. Either it happened that day.
Oh my gosh, he does walk like that.
I know. I told you.
And
really strange.
He owned a fanny pack.
No way.
I swear.
How'd you find that out?
He owned a fanny pack.
Man, that is wild.
Yeah, so...
We're going to have to dig.
Yes, and I do think that everybody should go listen to... I listened to 2 podcast episodes from the Murder Sheet podcast where they released the probable cause and the warrant, the search warrant, and then another one where they talk about Keegan Kline, which was the child predator that was messaging Libby, and they talk about Ron Logan, and they felt like Ron Logan, that Keegan Kline made more sense than Ronald Logan, but that was before Richard Allen's arrest. This was like early 2022.
Is this guy white pride?
That was my question. Was Is there any way his property was being used by the Vinlanders under his permission? Could he have been a part of this ending with that group? He's an older man.
Yeah, I get it.
So now, the HLN reporter who interviewed him did say, despite him being so old here, that he gets around those really steep hills like really well. She said there was this impression that he was this old frail man, but he was not. She said he
look like it there.
She said he was strong, he was sturdy. She said he even helped me go up and down the hills.
Jeez.
He literally took my hand and helped me up and down them because I was having a hard time going up and down them. Okay, that he knows his property well. Okay, according to the memorandum, this person would have had to have had access to some kind of saw to cut branches. That's his property.
Yeah.
That gives him pretty good access to tools.
Yeah. Yeah.
He has a limp like Bridge Guy. He has the body type like Bridge Guy. People who knew him said they thought Bridge Guy was him. He owns a fanny pack. He has weapons in his home.
Why was he ruled out?
He was never really formally announced as a suspect, and he was also never formally ruled out. Ever.
That's strange.
I know. So, here, I have 6 things that were red flags to me, which I already named a few. So, proximity. It's his property, where they were found. Looks like Bridge Guy. Also, he has a history of domestic abuse against his ex-girlfriends. He had ex-girlfriends come out and say he was violent. He was very abusive towards them.
See, I don't know these other suspects as well as I should. That's interesting.
Yeah. Also, 4, he lied and fabricated an alibi before the bodies were even found. That's a big red flag to me.
Did the friend come out after he passed or something and came forward with this?
No, the police knew. No, it didn't happen after. What? They didn't know after he died. They figured it out. So, yeah, the fake alibi. Also, he changed his times in the alibi too, where he says that at 3 p.m. and then that he went to the fish market, and then at another time it was like 2:30. He went backwards in time, like almost like he was trying to make it fit the time better. But the Bridge Guy videos at 2:13 p.m. According to police, is when the Bridge Guy thing happened. Him moving it back to 2:30 would still make sense though, because he couldn't have been there murdering them. Yeah,
I agree.
He still couldn't have been if he was at the fish market at 2:30. Like, what? Yeah. He killed him and did all that in 15 minutes and then drove however far away to a fish market? Like,
not happening.
Still, it would have cleared him.
Yeah.
So I don't think, like, the time discrepancy really matters that much. I feel like that's very, very, very sketchy.
I wonder if he bought anything. They have, like, proof that, hey, he wasn't there. Like, we don't have any receipts. There was no credit cards of his used.
Well, I think that's what they did. They went to the aquarium and realized, like, he's lying. So another thing with the exes is apparently he also had some weird, and I don't know what this means necessarily. I heard allegations, and I don't know if they're 100% true, that he watched porn that was odd.
I mean,
like bestiality.
Oh.
And other things that I probably shouldn't say. So,
like CP?
I don't know. Okay. I don't know that for sure. Like, it was implied in several different ways, but I have heard that. I really need to find a reputable, like, or somewhat reputable, because who knows what's reputable anymore,
Yeah.
source for that. I'm going to have to do some digging, because I feel like, honestly, a lot of the old stuff on Ronald Logan is now buried and probably in archives. Like, I'm probably going to have to dig it out.
Yep.
Like the old
Using
claims.
the Internet Archives.
Yeah. Also, oh gosh. Okay, so one thing that was alleged, okay, in Murder Sheet Podcast, they were talking about, so why would he fabricate this alibi? Say we're assuming innocence. Why would he do that?
I mean, without knowing more details, I don't know. Is there some reason that he was scared to be looked at? Because there are ulterior motives.
He didn't have a license. He didn't have a license, and he had passed a UI that made him lose his license. So and it seems like he had issues with alcohol in his past. Okay, he lost his license, and he was out driving that day, possibly.
Yeah.
So they were saying maybe he was coming up with this alibi because the cops were questioning him, and he didn't want to get caught driving without a license, so he did this.
That's totally possible, but so stupid. So stupid. What a dummy.
Yeah.
You just be honest with them and be like, look, I was out driving. I know I'm not supposed to, and I don't think you'll care right now because your concern is... I don't think technically
they can charge you for that unless they catch you behind the wheel.
Yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't just say that's common knowledge, though, that everyone would know that no one would be scared. But yeah.
Yeah, so I guess that is a possibility, but I don't know. Like, to me, it feels a little sus. Like, I don't know about that.
No, it's questionable. I just think it's one of those things that it's questionable going both ways, where...
Yeah.
Okay, I get the claim about the driving thing and not wanting to be in trouble. It's a small town, and maybe he caused issues with law enforcement before, so they've treated him kind of crappy in the past, and he just wanted to avoid all that. I think things like that are realistic and worth looking at, but do I think in a murder investigation that any of those dumb crimes, life-ending felony charges should just be given the honest, straight-up truth? Yes, I think he should have, but that doesn't necessarily mean that someone does every time.
Yeah, there were a lot of people who thought it was him in the beginning, and then it kind of lost steam. And then people went back and questioned, could it be him a few times? Because it seemed like he was a mean old man. And, the HLN reporter also talked about how he used to break horses. And he used to neuter animals without giving them any kind of pain or sedative medication. That he was an older man that did things in old ways that were extremely brutal. And, maybe there's a better way to do that, where you're not hurting an animal. There's just some red flags around
some
him.
behavioral flags is what it sounds like. The only thing that I would say with that, though, is just wanting to see evidence.
Me
because
too.
Hearing those things or saying those things, those are the types of details that get thrown around a lot to cloud up a situation. And the easiest way out of that cloudy tunnel is, okay, let's see evidence. Are there text messages? Are there written letters, even from 20 years ago, where we can prove some of that? Do we have search history on his PORN that he watches? Do we, you know what I mean? There's a lot of different ways that we could potentially get some kind of explanation, evidence, proof, something, making it more concrete.
Yeah. So it was text messages, so he told them that between two, okay, so he said that he got picked up by a friend between 2 and 2:30 p.m. to go to the aquarium store. He spoke with a family member the following morning and instructed them to tell the cops about the trip, to say he returned home by 5 to 5:30. I didn't realize that. So that whole time frame, 2 to 2:30 from 5 to 5:30.
Yeah.
Also, here's the 6th red flag that I hadn't mentioned yet. They said, which, this is important to mention that it could not be accurate, but they claim that his phone pinged around the time of the murders outside of his home, likely in proximity to where the girls were found.
But no confirmation.
Right. They said likely, which means that it's possible, but it's not like solid.
Yeah.
So he was home at the time of the murders, though. That's important.
As long as we can find evidence. None of this stuff has evidence to it, which makes me, like, curious.
What? It comes from an FBI probable cause affidavit. They do have evidence.
When was this submitted? Is this the new document?
It's not new. It's from back when they searched him. He's dead.
Yeah, I get that. That doesn't mean that you can't.
It's not a part of the new
theories.
stuff. It's not a part of the new stuff.
So it's pulling back up some of the details of. Got it. Okay.
Right.
Okay, I got you.
The girls' bodies were found about 1,400 feet from his home, and they say that his phone was pinging outside of his home around the time of the murders.
And this is FBI evidence, right?
Yes.
Okay. Before the FBI
Pulled
gave
out.
up. Yeah. Got it.
So interesting. So he was home, he was there, and he was probably outside, maybe, around the time of the murders, where he's then fabricating an alibi, saying he was gone.
I'm curious who the FBI think it is.
Did he even go out driving that day?
I don't know.
I'm not sure. I probably should look into it more, but that's a bit odd.
It is.
You know, another weird thing that was mentioned in that is that they said that they believe the killer physically removed something from the girls or may have taken photos to memorialize the crime scene. So they think whoever did it took a souvenir. But they don't say what they think it is, that it's photos or took something. Why would they say that? That's so odd to put in there.
The only thing that I could think of is maybe there's footprints, like a whole bunch of footprints, like where you might move to take a picture, you know what I mean? And they're like, wait, why are there all those random, like, footprints, like, all over, back and forth like this? Oh, wait, maybe they could have been taking a picture.
Or did they find a tripod? Indentions in the dirt?
That's a good one, too.
Really odd.
Yeah, it is. It is.
I mean, it would kind of make sense, I guess, to take a picture if you posed the bodies that way.
Yeah.
A lot of serial killers have taken pictures.
Yeah.
Like
I mean,
a lot.
anything to keep that reliving going.
Right.
Because it loses its steam after a while.
But this was kind of just like a quick deep dive into him. Like, it's not super deep. It's like mid, you know?
Yeah.
To kind of get the conversation going, because I want more on him. I want to be able... Because I haven't looked at every angle of this case. I didn't follow it when it happened. But I think it's interesting to go back, because I think there's a huge possibility that Richard Allen is innocent. And I think it's a huge possibility the killer is still right under the noses of the people in Delphi.
Yeah.
So I think it's interesting to go back and look at these people and see, you know, like, is there anything that was missed? Were they looking at this wrong? Like, if the police had some bias or some reason for not really looking into certain people, what's going on here? Like, I almost wondered, is Ron Logan connected to white supremacists in any way? Like, that's a big question for me. he's an older white man on this property, like, and he's known for some pretty bad stuff, you know?
That's my biggest question, because after we looked at all the evidence that we looked at the other night when we released that video and did the live stream, is I feel like that was set up by somebody with racial motivation.
Yeah.
I definitely do. I definitely do. But I'm curious what you guys think.
Yeah, and when I've searched into, like, anything he's ever said that could be, like, even deemed racial in any kind of way, like, I couldn't find nothing at all. And if he's an innocent, you know, older man, he's gone, you know. That sucks. Yeah. But I have serious questions.
Yeah.
And I want to know what you guys think. I know a lot of people have, like, really, really, you know, been dedicated to the Delphi case and know a ton about it. If you know any more about him, if you followed it from the beginning, because I feel like the people who follow a case from the beginning really have a perspective that you can't get looking at it after the fact.
I agree.
I feel like both are equally important, but also different, you know? So I would love for you to share any perspective you have, any information you have on Ron Logan, any sources. You can go post them in Discord in the new forum where we're posting all of our source material. Other members and people, viewers, are posting theirs. We're talking, having a good time.
Yes. That.
But yeah.
Let us know what you think.